Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Joanna Ho. Here's a look at tonight's top stories.
小心啊！呢個嘢甩咗係啦，唔好咁多人行。
1,500 MTR passengers forced to evacuate after yet another service breakdown. Jiang Zemin cremated in Beijing ahead of official memorial service tomorrow. And Paul Chen predicts a 100 billion deficit in the current financial year. For the second time in less than a month, MTR passengers were forced to evacuate through the tunnel after a train broke down in Changquano during the morning rush. 2 people were sent to hospital, and services only resumed 4 hours later. It was the worst possible start to the week for around 1,500 MTR passengers. A train bound for North Point ground to a sudden halt as it approached Changquano Station at around 8:30 a.m. Lights soon went out, leaving commuters in a state of confusion and panic.
Train service for today has ended.
Following a long wait, they were told to evacuate by walking along the tunnel, marking the second time in 3 weeks that MTR passengers had to escape in this manner. Under the guidance of MTR staff and firefighters, the commuters walked by the side of the tracks before reaching the station platform. While the walk was relatively short, the pitch-black conditions proved to be challenging for some people. A pregnant woman was among 2 passengers who were sent to hospital after feeling sick. This man, who stood in a gangway linking the 6th and 7th carriages, or where the malfunction occurred, said he heard a loud thud. He then escaped over fears that the 2 coaches could be detached. The Fire Services Department said it received a report about a faulty train at 9:18 a.m., nearly 50 minutes after the accident. More than 100 firefighters and paramedics arrived within 6 minutes to assist the evacuation effort. Some passengers who were not in a hurry chose to stay put on the train. The incident paralyzed services along the Changquano line, with trains only running between North Point and Tioking at 5-minute intervals. While free shuttle buses ran between Changquano, Hanghao, Polam, and Lohas Park, they couldn't cope with the sheer demand. Some were told to seek alternative means of public transport. But this woman, who was stuck in the station for 15 minutes, was furious with the lack of clear instructions. She said the broadcast announcements were inconsistent and she was made to go round in circles. Following emergency repairs, the faulty train was removed from the tracks and services gradually resumed at 12:30 p.m. The MTR Corporation pointed to a faulty coupler for the latest service disruption. A lawmaker felt the railway operator got lucky this time, saying there could have been serious casualties. Jenna Slow reports.
The MTR Corporation made another apology following a second major accident in 3 weeks. It revealed a faulty coupler connecting the 6th and 7th carriages was to blame for the accident, but insisted a safety device had kicked in immediately to stop the train. Chief of Operations Engineering Nelson Ng added the carriages did not derail this time. The faulty train had returned to the depot, where Ng said a full investigation will be conducted to prevent a repeat of the blunder. Lawmaker Gary Zhang, an engineer who once worked for the MTR, described the incident as very serious.
It is quite clearly that the train was dividing. That is, the connection was actually at least was actually broken, or at least it was loosened. As we can imagine, if the train carriages, if they got really like physically separated, and those passengers standing within that area could be put into a very significant risk. So that's why I describe this instance as very serious, and we are fortunate that there was no major injury or casualties reported in this particular incident.
Jiang was highly critical of the way passengers were evacuated in the previous incident last month, after many were made to walk in a tunnel alongside moving trains. He said the arrangement was much better this time, as both police officers and MTR staff were seen providing assistance on the tracks. Dubbed the K-train, the Korean-made carriages running on the Cheongkwon-o and Tongcheong lines have been in use for around 2 decades. Instead of speculation that components are aging, Jiang said the trains should be in their best condition in terms of stability after years of optimization and maintenance. Janice Low, HKIBC.
Hong Kong's COVID cases remained just below 5 digits. The city recorded 9,508 cases, with imported infections accounting for just 665, or 7%. There were another 411 new admissions into hospitals. Nearly 3,000 patients are still undergoing treatment for COVID, including 21 in intensive care. Another 20 patients passed away with the virus. The government has launched a development roadmap to help the insurance sector tap into the mainland market. An industry representative said at one point, 4 in 10 policies in Hong Kong were issued to mainland visitors. Macy Mock reports.
In a bid tap into the massive mainland market, the government has published a development roadmap for the insurance sector. Financial Services Secretary Christopher Ho said the government's aim is to solidify Hong Kong's status as an insurance hub.
In terms of this international circulation, you will see 2 flows. One is the national company coming here, and another is the mainland company coming out using Hong Kong as a platform. Because Hong Kong boasts a whole array of insurers, reinsurers, and advisors, which are best positioned to facilitate many of our mainland companies, in particular the SOEs, to manage the various project risks in the Belt and Road region.
Also speaking in Asian Insurance Forum, Chief Executive John Lee said a consultation will begin this month on a scheme which provides an additional safety net for insurance policyholders in the event of insolvency. He added the government is making final preparations to set up service points on the mainland, such as Nansha and Qianhai, for people who bought insurance products in Hong Kong.
When you come to premium payment and also claim settlement, I think the mainlander would be really happy to have such kind of service for them in the mainland, because you see, you can imagine, just like COVID, which makes them extremely difficult to come to Hong Kong. So if we have service center in the mainland, obviously there will be much more convenient for them. They also strengthen their confidence when they come to Hong Kong to buy the policy.
Chan said many mainland residents were lured by the wide range of insurance products in Hong Kong. He revealed at its peak, 39% of new policies in the SAR were issued to mainland visitors. But that has dropped substantially after borders were shut because of COVID. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Former President Jiang Zemin has been cremated in Beijing this morning ahead of a memorial service tomorrow.
习近平等向江泽民同志。
According to state media, President Xi Jinping and his predecessor Hu Jintao were among top officials to bid farewell to Jiang at a hospital in Beijing. They also expressed their deep condolences to Jiang's widow Wang Yiping and his family. Xi then escorted Jiang's hearse to the Babaoshan Revolutionary Cemetery, where former state leaders were cremated. Jiang passed away aged 96 in Shanghai last Wednesday. The official memorial service will be held at the Great Hall of the People tomorrow at 10 a.m. The country will observe 3 minutes of silence, including Hong Kong, where government departments and even courthouses will pause operation. Overseas, there has been growing unease in Europe after the United States announced $430 billion of subsidies and tax breaks for green energy technologies. But the head of the European Union quickly shut down the possibility of a transatlantic trade war.
Europe will always do what is right for Europe. So yes, the European Union will respond in an adequate and well-calibrated manner to the Inflation Reduction Act. But does this mean that we will engage in a costly trade war with the United States in the middle of an actual war? This is not in our interest, and nor in the interest of the Americans. Competition between Europe and the United States can push both our industries to excel, to innovate, to transform faster, and all this is necessary. And this is why I believe in the need to invest into two clean energy industrial bases on both sides of the Atlantic.
Called the Inflation Reduction Act, the initiative will provide tax cuts for U.S.-made electric cars and other green products. Washington said this is aimed at addressing climate change, but European countries felt the subsidies are anti-competitive. French President Emmanuel Macron also spoke out against the plan during a recent visit to the U.S. Hong Kong is facing a deficit of $100 billion in this financial year as the economy deteriorates over the past few months. But Financial Secretary Paul Chan remains optimistic in his short-term outlook. Jenna Slow reports.
While Hong Kong is on track for a full-year recession of 3.2%, the Financial Secretary told lawmakers this morning the bad news doesn't end there. Paul Chan predicted the deficit in the year ending March 31st to hit $100 billion. The revised estimate is nearly double the figure provided in his budget back in February. But how accurate his latest prediction will be remains to be seen, as past estimates turn out to be wildly off base. Since Paul Chan took office in 2017, he gave overly pessimistic forecasts 3 times. The worst was in 2018, when the government recorded a surplus of $150 billion, 9 times his original forecast. But if his latest forecast was anything to go by, Hong Kong's fiscal reserves will drop to $800 billion, equivalent to 11 months of public expenditure. The economic uncertainty is likely to reignite the debate of whether the government should tighten its purse strings or hand out more sweeteners to relieve people's financial hardship.
We
will allocate resources for work that has to be done, and we will be prudent and will ensure that we live within our means, and we will spend where money is needed to ensure sustainability, and we must retain fiscal strength to cope with known and unforeseeable needs. We will continue to find new growth areas to increase our revenue, to consolidate and strengthen our economic recovery.
As the job market improved for 6 consecutive months, Chan made it clear that it may not be appropriate to roll out another round of the employment support scheme, which cost the public coffers a minimum of $43 billion. The financial chief was hopeful the economy in the coming year will not fare as badly as when the pandemic first hit Hong Kong 2 years ago. But he was less forthcoming when asked if there will be more consumption vouchers or electricity rebates for the general public. Janice Slow, HKIBC.
Hong Kong stock markets closed much higher amid reports that China is speeding up plans to reopen the economy. The benchmark picked up a solid 4.5%. The Hang Seng Tech Index even jumped over 9.2%, with turnover at $75 billion, the most in half a year. Mainland tech giants led the rally. Heavyweights Tencent, Alibaba, and JD.com all climbed to their 3-month high. Insurance shares also soared on the government's new roadmap aimed at giving the sector a boost. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed up 842 points. To the top 10 active stocks, Tencent was up $18, Meituan up $6.30. Kuaishou up $3.65, JD.com up $24.40. To the forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, euros at 8.2, pounds at 9.54, and Australian dollar at 5.28. Over to the UK market, FTSE 100 is up 14 points. On to the weather now. Sunny periods tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 14 and 19 degrees. You can expect fine and dry conditions throughout the week. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Monday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Joanna Ho. Thanks for watching. Good night.